Hello everyone, open heart, open mind. Once again, I welcome you to the Satwa channel, an online official platform of the Satwa project. Myself, Samisha Kamil.
Myself Samiksha Mishra, and we both are from the Sattva Youth, bringing Dharma to you and bridging Dharma with youth. Sattva Youth is an Buddhist youth program initiated by the Sattva project. Okay, so before beginning with our discussion on behalf of the Sattva project, I would like to express my gratitude towards our streamer sponsor and media partners, Durian Asian and Durian FM, and also one more person who manages all the technicalities in the background, which is Brother Ray. Brother Ray, would you like to say hi to the audience, please?
Hello and welcome everyone. Please remember to like and share this video with more people. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, do subscribe to our channel, like and share the video. Now back to you.
Thank you,
Thank
Brother
you,
Ray.
Brother Ray. So, may we have the first slide, Brother Ray? So, today we are going to have the second part of the series, which we started, I think, in this month, InterBeing Series. So, which was entitled The Miracle of Mindfulness, Remembering Thich Nhat Hanh. So, we are going to have part two. So, before we begin our session, let me introduce you to our today's moderator and speakers. So our today's moderator is Brother Kelvin. Samiksha, would you like to introduce him?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the moderator of tonight's discussion is Brother Calvin Ong E. Han. After years of practicing as a legal assistant and servicing in various societies and organizations, Calvin decided to embark on a full-time mindfulness teaching role as his interest has always been in working out the minds. In 2008, he co-founded the Journey Within Center with his wife. As a firm believer and practitioner in meditation since age of 14, he has participated in various silence retreats around the world from many traditions under Theravada and Vajrayana meditation. Calvin also took intensive yoga trainings where he took the opportunity to immerse himself in Yoga Sutra Patanjali, the Bhagavad Gita, and Vedanta. Calvin believes we need to bring together both an Eastern traditional approach and the Western scientific or psychological approach together as an integrated approach. Calvin is also a fourth level trained instructor of mindfulness based cognitive therapy, which is accredited by the Oxford Mindfulness Centre, University of Oxford, UK. Happy to have you as a moderator, Brother Calvin.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Miss Samisha, for introducing me. Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Okay. The second, sorry, our first contributor of this program is Brother Sherab. So he is the co-founder of the Satwa project. So his Chinese name is Wong Wei, or preferred to be called as Sherab. His Tibetan name, meaning wisdom, is a freelance writer, speaker, and translator. He has been working and translating for many spiritual teachers in various talks, retreats, seminars, and workshops since 1997. He shares his experiences and knowledge on various schools of Tibetan Buddhism, Zen, synchronicity, and basic principles in integral spirituality as well as creative visualization through his meditation and spiritual workshops. His published works of translation included Introduction to Buddhism and Tantric Meditation by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Happiness is a State of Mind by His Holiness the 12th Gyalwang Drukpa, Three Teachings by Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo, The Heartful Path of Awakening by Khenpo Jamyang Karma Gelsen. So, we are pleased to have you, Brother, share up to this program.
Thank you, Samisha Kamli and Samisha Mishram. Namaste and Tashitele and Sawadikap to all.
Okay, so our second contributor is Brother K.V. Soon. Brother K.V. Soon is an entrepreneur, digital transformation specialist, and activist. Uh, KV has been involved in corporate and socially engaged work for over 30 years. KV deeply appreciates the different aspects of social problems, and while there are issues needs to confront immediately, there is also those that require a longer term approach. This include transformational work on the grassroots as well as on the governmental, corporate, community, and individual levels. KV is the co-founder and director of Spirit of Endure, known as Vidyananda in the Buddhist circle. Is previously served as Secretary of the International Forum on Buddhist-Muslim Relations. He is currently a member of the Executive Committee of the International Network of Engaged Buddhists. I'll be happy to have you, Brother KV, soon on tonight's discussion.
Brother KV, you are muted.
Oh yes, thank you very much and nice to be here.
So our next contributor is Brother Liau Meng. Brother Liau Meng was graduated from University of Technology, Malaysia, UTM. He is now working as a professional engineer in an engineering consultant firm in Kuala Lumpur. He has been active in Buddhist activities since his time in university. After graduated, he was active in Buddhist GEM Fellowship (BGF) and has held the post of the Deputy President. He started to be active in Young Buddhist Association of Malaysia since year 1992. He has held many portfolios in YBAM, including President, Honorable General Secretary, Deputy President, Vice President, Chairman of Training Committee, and International Affairs Committee. He has also represented YBAM to be the Secretary of Malaysia Buddhist Coordination Committee, now known as Malaysian Buddhist Consultative Council, and Vice President of World Fellowship of Buddhist Youth. He is currently servicing at Buddhist Missionaries Society Malaysia (BMSM) as Honorable General Secretary and YBAM as lay advisor. A warm welcome to this event, Brother Liao Kogbal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next contributor is Brother Chan Huy. Chan Huy is a senior lay Dharma teacher in Thich Nhat Hanh tradition. He received Ram transmission from the Venerable Zen Master in 1994 in Plum Village, France, and has taught and led mindfulness retreats everywhere in Canada and the USA since. He has helped set up and support many local sanghas and groups of practices wherever he goes. Chan Huy was the founding member of the Maple Village in Canada, 1986, and the founder of the Montreal Mindfulness Practice Center in 1995 and Institute of Applied Mindfulness 2010. In the last few years, Dharma teacher Chan Huy has also started teaching to various groups of mindfulness meditation practice in China, Taiwan, and Japan. We warm welcome you, Brother Chan Huy. Okay,
Hello, thank you. Welcome.
yes. So now we have got all the members on our screen. So we request to Brother Calvin to lead this discussion ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Okay, to begin with, just like our last session, I would like to raise the concern to the most challenge of our time now. Most of us are affected by the pandemic, and I also mentioned last time about the concerns on the Russia and Ukraine war. So I would like to take this opportunity for us to come together to embrace the spirit of compassion, also in memory of Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, to pray for the people who are suffering in this pandemic storm and also Ukraine war now. In our prayers, let us pray for an end to the violence, war, and pandemics. May I invite all of us, all of you, to take a brief 60 seconds in noble silence to honor this prayer. Okay, thank you, everyone. Very honored and delighted to meet our amazing panelists again today. And this time, part two, we are very blessed to have Brother Chan Huy join us. We foresee that Brother Chan Huy sharing will certainly satisfy our curious minds pertaining to the real experience and what is it like to be learning under the great master, Venerable late Thich Nhat Hanh. So first of all, I would like to direct my query to Brother Chan. Um, I always admire practitioners like yourself, Brother Chan, who are willing to take practice out from the usual comfort zones to a very unfamiliar ground to be with great master like Thich Nhat Hanh. For more subname, with so many great teachers in the world, why is Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh and Plum Village your choice of devotions and destinations? Of course, for sure, we are very curious to know any special quality of your guru, Master Thich Nhat Hanh. His personality touches you in your spiritual path. What is it like to be learning under Master? And any special interactions between you and Master? Would you mind sharing with us all these your insights?
Thank you, Brother. Um, that is such a big, and I could take many years of talking to you about all of that. So first of all, let me know how much time would you like me to take. I know that there are other concerns and from our audience and also from our speakers today on the panel. I wouldn't want to take too much time. One thing I would like to mention, I was invited by Brother Sherab, and thank you, Sherab, for inviting me. And I was very quick to answer. I say yes.
Yep.
Well, I was stopping because the bell was ringing, and I don't know if you heard that. But it is part of our practice to stop when we hear the sound of the bell. Yeah, when we are in Plum Village, there's always a clock like that that will be ringing every 15 minutes. And when it rings, even my teacher is giving a Dharma talk for our everyday practice. So thank you for practicing with me. So I will try to be very brief, but if I take too much time, please do not hesitate to make a sign so that I will know when to stop. But I have had the very good privilege to have known Thich Nhat Hanh a very long time ago. And when I say a very long time ago, I am thinking of like 2,600 years ago. But in the historic dimension, in our calendar, I am from a family that counts 5 generations of students with Thich Nhat Hanh. My grandmother was a student and a big supporter of my teacher when he was a very young monk. And she was helping him go abroad in the 60s when my teacher was campaigning in the world to make the world know about the war in Vietnam. So our history dates back all that time. from the 60s. And at that time, I was very young, so I have met Thai. But you know how Asian family are. When you have a monk in your home, you do not want your children or your grandchildren to bother him. So they were like pushing me away from our teacher. And that is one, you see, how we so misunderstand our teachers. They love to be with children, but we think that they are not, and we separate the young people from and that is the type of mistake that we are always doing. To make the story short, in 1985, I was a young, successful project manager, engineer in Canada, and being an Asian in North America, you have to work, you have to be 10 times better to your colleagues in order to be recognized. And so being the yellow, young, ambitious, competent, I was overworked and I felt very sick. I suffered a burnout out of my stress from work. Um, and I was so fortunate because when that happened, um, my teacher came to Canada to lead a retreat. And my mother pushed me to go to see him. And I was outside, and the first talk that I heard from my teacher, maybe you know, is the better way to live alone. And one sentence caught me. The past is already gone. The future is not yet there. There's only one moment, and that is the present moment. And it got my attention. And I said, wow, I need to learn more about that. So I went to see the organizers of the of Thai school to Canada, and they mentioned to me that they had a retreat. So I heard him on Sunday, and the retreat was to start. It was a 1 week retreat, would start the following Monday. But they say we are sold out. There is no space for the weekend, so you can come, but only for the weekdays. So I was so I registered. I came to my office and I say, do not look for me. I will disappear for 1 week. And that was my first retreat with my teacher. And it was like a new world uncovering. For the first time in my life, I was able to stop, to walk slowly, to witness, to look at the stars at night in the sky, to look at the blue sky, to look at the flowers. For the first time in my life also, I saw with my own eyes a pink cloud. And well, maybe it is normal for you, those things, but for me, it was uncovering a new world. I did not know any of that before because I was too busy with my projects, with my things to do. And for the first time in my life, I was living in the present moment. And I had the most beautiful week of my life. In my life, I remember having had many happy moments, like when I was um, allowed to go abroad to study. Wow. And that was quite a news because if I had stayed in Vietnam, I would be drafted, and for sure I would not be able to be with you speaking like I am doing now. And so after that, it was Canada and the school, and I had to perform. And the aim was to get my degree, and after my degree was to get a job, and after getting the job is to get the next promotion and the next bigger project and blah 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 blah. And I was always striving for something in the future, and it's like my life and my happiness depends on anything, everything that is not here, but that is only possible in the future. And as soon as I touch it, it would disappear and there will be another goal to attain and all that. So that was my first encounter with my teacher, and it saved my life, and it made me realize that life is beautiful. And from that moment on, out of gratitude to have received that wonderful teaching, I made it a career for myself to be sharing wherever I can. And I was also very fortunate because at that time, mindfulness was very new in America. And there was a lot of demand, but not many answers. So I think that it was very well planned. I had to get that teaching when I needed it most, because if I was not sick, I would not have. Well, it is not a place that you would go, a silent retreat for a young 35 years old, successful project manager, engineer. And so my sickness, my illness was a blessing. I'm very happy that it happened, and it gives me the chance to learn about this wonderful teaching, to come back to the road of Buddhism, and to be able to share it, because there was a big need, but nothing to answer to those needs. And so if you remember, John Kabat-Zinn was not even there yet. And so that's where the time it started. And so that was my personal history on how I got into it. And yeah, aware of the time, I will skip to. And what I wanted to share, and what I'm always trying to share, and that I consider the most important teachings. This is a happy moment. And in China, we've been practicing this mantra for 6 years now. From the time I first went to China until now, I'm always repeating, this is the mantra that we can learn, we can practice in our everyday life. And when we do it, it will save us from any situation at all. Whatever difficult situation, difficult moment we may be in, if we remember and we call it out and we say, this is a happy moment, the moment will be happy. And just like any mantra, like the Om mantra, any mantra, if we put our heart, if we put our practice, our whole being into it, it will become a reality. And that is for me one of the most important teaching that I want to share. The other one also, we suffer a lot because when we suffer, we always seems to be pointing out to find a cause of our suffering. And we always point out and we say we suffer because of the war out there. We suffer because of that person. We suffer because of Putin. We suffer because of. But I've learned that all of the outside, everything that is outside of us, are only conditions. And the real starting point of our suffering is within. And one sentence that I also consider as a mantra of practice. The way out is in. Whenever I'm discouraged, when I'm suffering, I try to come back in me, inside of me, and to calm myself down in order to see, to remember that the root of my suffering is not out there, but it is in here. And
Thank you.
it's in.
Thank you, Brother Chan Huy. I would like to hear more.
One last minute. You
Yeah.
know that I'm wearing a brown jacket, and this is my jacket for belonging to the order of InterBeing. And so InterBeing is also uh, the base of our practice. And it is a word that has been invented by teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. And that is how he presented Buddhism to the Council of Peace or some kind of international interfaith council. When everybody was trying to talk about their faith and their belief, my teacher summed up Buddhism as with that simple word, interbeing. And interbeing meaning that there's nothing that can be by itself alone, that we all depend on one another, and that there's no separation between anything, and that we are everywhere. So thank you so much for the time that you have allowed me to have. And if I may also, I thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Chan Huy. Maybe you can share with us later about more on your your techniques. Because I read your data, bio data, and then some things actually catch my attentions about symmetry, samadhi, prajna, the right mindfulness. I hope to hear from you more later. And I'm really touched that you share with us your transformational story. And then I think these chances like what you have actually are definitely valuable and rare. So lucky, so blessed you have. And tonight actually we will be discussing Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's Engage Buddhism precepts, and I hope all of us, others panelists, could shed some more lights on this topic. Yeah. To me, actually, I treat Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh also one of my teacher. One of his famous and most important quotes always attracted my attentions, which reads, "There is no way to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the way." I'm curious to hear others panelists or speakers, brother. What is your interpretations on these quotes in terms of your personal practice and experience? Because this is a great quote. I think it's very related to all mindfulness practitioners. Maybe Brother Kevin, would you mind share with us what do you think?
Thank you very much, Brother Kevin, and thank you, Brother Chan, for the inspirational sharing. So as I was listening to you, Brother Chan, I was also thinking about this whole interbeing as something that's very, very relevant today. I interpret interbeing as not just the other beings outside, but also between the beings ourselves inside. There's a lot of reflection to be done. So thank you for sharing. So, Brother Kelly, do you mind repeating that phrase again? It's quite interesting. That is
that's one of the famous quotes by Master Thich Nhat Hanh, which reads, "There's no way to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the way." This is the quote. How do you interpret these quotes? Yeah.
I like this quote very much because sometimes we, in our daily lives, we kind of always want to look for directions. We want to look for want to look for a vehicle, right? And we tend to focus on the vehicle and don't tend to look at the end. Where do we want to go? And enlightenment is not the way. It is the end. It is the end. That's what we are looking at, right? So it also reminds me of Zen, very traditional Zen teaching about the finger pointing to the moon. Yeah, we are referring to the moon and not the finger, right? And my interpretation specifically here is when we talk about Buddhism, when we talk about religion per se, sometimes we spend too much time and too much effort trying to spread Buddhism, trying to spread the Dharma, trying to teach Buddhism. But Buddhism is just a label. It's a bottle that contains the teachings of Buddha. What we need to really enable is to, if something you really like to teach is not Buddhism, is really inculcate compassion, is to bring about mindfulness, is to bring about wisdom, is to bring about love for one another. That's really what we need to think about. So that particular statement helped me reflect upon some of the other masters' teaching, and I always like to use this one. When you're out there, don't teach Buddhism, teach compassion. Don't teach meditation, right? Bring forth mindfulness. So I think we have to be very careful and reflect on this very often. I think to go into the heart of that value that we're trying to inculcate. So that's my interpretation, and that's my sharing for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kelly. What about Brother Sherab? Do you have anything to share about these quotes?
I think I myself have heard this quote in many versions lah. Like, there's no way to happiness, happiness is the way. There's no way to peace, peace is the way. Something like that. I think the main fundamental essence of this sentence is that you can bring out the result that you want. That result you are going to achieve by practicing something. Bring it to here and now, and embrace that result, and then from that result you manifest your compassion and wisdom to the world. So for me is that we must be, and the key was just be the thing that you want to achieve, instead of becoming, you want to achieve something by doing something hard. It's kind of like effortless, choiceless awareness that you need to have, bring into this present moment and embrace that. And then what we talk about, normally we say we practice the Dharma. For me, I think we need to manifest the Dharma. The Dharma itself is already perfect. You don't have to make it perfect. So, for example, you say practice makes perfect, right? I think the Dharma is perfectly perfect. So we don't have to practice the Dharma. Instead, we need to manifest the innermost Dharma that we already have, which is already perfect. So that for me is the interpretation of that word. So what we want peace, we must have peace in our heart. We want healing, we must have healing in our mind. And we want, like, for happiness, so we must enjoy or embrace the happiness that we have in this present moment, here and now. And then manifest the Dharma that we already have, already perfect in our Buddha nature, or in our innermost being. So interbeing for me is this innermost being as well. And that will make everything fine. Yeah. So there's no way to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the way, and the way is now, here and now. For me, that is my interpretation. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go into more detail in relation to practice or techniques. Brother Chan Huy, just now I haven't had enough for your sharings. You talk about I read your bio sharings talking about symmetry, samadhi, and prajna. What is the relationship between these right mindfulness with the quote just now? Anything to do with enlightenment, or what is the directions of practicing this right mindfulness? So would you mind let us have more insight on Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching? about this?
Another difficult one. You don't have any easier question. Like, what did I have for breakfast? Well, the reason why I mentioned right mindfulness is because I'm very wary and scared and afraid of words. And so I'm a little bit relieved that our linguist doctor is not there. um, but that word mindfulness did not exist 50, no, 70 years ago. I don't remember exactly when it was born, but when it it started to go out, there were a lot of discussion around that word. Why mindfulness? Why not awareness? Why blah blah blah? And well, you know how people like to discuss about words, and okay, and mindfulness, especially well in America, when I started learning about it. When I first started, Google also started, and I tried to Google the word mindfulness, and it took a long time for some result to appear. But then now, if you type it on, you will see that there will be billion and billion of hits by, and uh, and I think that because of of that trendiness, um, we have lost its meaning. Uh, Everybody is talking about mindfulness. Everybody has an idea of what it might be. Uh, and I'm sure that we take 5% and we try to see the meaning of, I'm sure that it's all different. And yet they use the same word. And so you have mindfulness uh, based stress reduction, and then you have mindfulness for cancer recovery, and you have mindfulness for sport people. You have mindfulness for everything.
But we haven't heard for mindfulness for enlightenment, right?
And please let me, yeah, I apologize, brother. I am slow. Please bear with me.
Sure.
So the mindfulness that we are talking about, we in the sense that okay, I will not dare to include more than myself and Thich Nhat Hanh students, but we are students of the Buddha, and for us, mindfulness is right. Mindfulness is one of the noble eightfold paths, and it's part of the Four Noble Truths. It's the basic teaching of the Buddha. And that is the mindfulness that we are practicing. Um, I'm very happy to see that it has become very diluted. And I'm using the word diluted in a very um, um, loving way. Because if the medicine is too strong for somebody to take, they can take the diluted solution and it's still good. And that is why I always remember one of the teaching of the Buddha on the ocean. When we, on a hot summer day, we can have a lot of pleasure on the beach, and we can venture and have our feet wet and we get cool. We can also swim, and that is up to us. And we can also be much more courageous and dive, and we know that we can go miles and miles in the water, and there's still things to discover, and that is how I see Buddhism. So mindfulness if we start with stopping, breathing, that's wonderful. But if we continue that simple practice and that teaching, we will discover many things that will be revealed to us if we stay in the practice. And that is why right mindfulness is the mindfulness that is part of the Noble Eightfold Path, the mindfulness that brings about concentration, and concentration that brings about insight, insight and enlightenment. And enlightenment on what? Enlightenment on the cause of suffering. And we come back to the basic teaching of the Buddha. The Buddha suffered in his life, found a way, and shared that way very generously to all of us, his students. I have come to Buddhism because I suffered. I have found the way out of my suffering from the teaching, and that's what I'm sharing. The world is suffering, and we see suffering everywhere. But there is a way out, and the way out is in the Noble Eightfold Path. It starts with right mindfulness that brings about concentration, and that brings about understanding and enlightenment. Enlightenment about the suffering, the cause of suffering, and the way out of suffering. Yeah, so thank you again, brother, and I apologize for taking so much time. But yeah,
No, no,
this
no,
is
no. Don't worry, don't worry.
years after years. So thank you for your
Yeah.
general
Don't worry,
patience.
no. Actually, tonight we are lucky to hear a deeper sense of mindfulness. Thank you, Brother Chan Huy, for sharing this. Really, we hear very insightful sharings of yours. Thank you very much. What about Brother Liau? Would you like to add on anything on top of our three learned speakers sharing now, Brother Liau?
On the saying there's no way to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the way. I I think this may be more related to Zen or Chan tradition, as it's maybe difficult to explain in words. But I think Brother Sherab just now has mentioned, actually there are many versions of this. I also come across the saying that there's no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. So I think maybe easier to explain it using happiness instead of using enlightenment. Okay, for example, happiness is not something, because a lot of people will you set some conditions. If I achieve this one, then I will be happy. If I got this one, then I'll be happy. But actually, happiness is not that something you will achieve. It's not depend on external condition. It just depend on yourself, how you perceive things. Two different persons having same conditions. One may be very happy, the other one may be very unhappy. So I think the word the phrase maybe explained in this way may be easier to understand. To me, maybe I'm not a brilliant student of the of the Buddha, but I think but I think enlightenment is something we need to. We still there's something that we need to learn to practice to achieve. Okay, even though we say that okay, enlightenment is no way to enter enlightenment, but I think the Buddha did lay out a lot of practices, for example, Eightfold Path, all this kind of thing. The path is still there for us to practice, for us to achieve. Or nearer to enlightenment. Of course, there are some people who are the brilliant students of the Buddha. They can achieve something that by their own way. But to me or to normal students or to common students, I think there are still the Buddha still did lay out a lot of way for us to achieve something in terms of enlightenment. This is my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Leo. Thanks a lot. Okay. Yep. Continued from our last discussions, the previous discussions. We have discussed. I trust we all know now, right? Not every teacher has the same quality like Master Thich Nhat Hanh or Dalai Lama or all those enlightened beings. Last sessions, Sherab has very, to me, fearlessly distinguished the existence of a true and a fake guru. It's a very sensitive topic. Okay, very sensitive topic. Yeah, of course, this can be very subjective unless we have the privilege, like Brother Chan Huy, to learn under a close supervision of a great guru. Otherwise, we can't be sure. So, in this context of true guru and fake guru, right? I think we all form a consensus that guru is someone that could influence a large number of disciples, of course, including all of us. So, in this regard, we hear gurus sometimes their misbehavior or Brother Sherab has sensitively brought up the need of disciple to manage our own healing process before anything else, before criticizing the teacher or whatever. I think our discussions stopped here last time. So continue with these discussions, right? I would like to hear more about what do you mean healing process, and Brother Sarab, can you detail out the things to do for this healing process to take effect? Because last sessions you mentioned we do healing first, but what kind of healings are we supposed to go through?
I think for me, when we talk about the guru in our last episode of dialogue, right? I think we have to clarify between so-called authentic guru and fake gurus, lah. No? And I believe that even authentic gurus did make mistakes, however perfect they seem to be, and they really does make mistakes or have some imperfections. And even the fake guru also, we can learn something good from them as well, even they are not that authentic. So in short, we can learn from anyone, everyone, yeah, regardless who they are. You know, as there's a saying in Chinese proverbs that the 3% there's one must be our guru. You know, we can learn from one of them. So in terms of this healing process, I think um, the first step of healing is that we must admit that we have a disease, we have some suffering that need to be looked upon seriously and mindfully. Okay, so when you want to heal ourselves, our own wound or woundedness, or want to heal the world, I think first of all we need to admit that there's a need for such healing to happen, and admit that it's a problem need to be solved. There's a suffering need to. First, I think we need to feel. We need to interbe with that feeling of pain, feeling of suffering, or feeling of woundedness. And as I saw in the background of Brother Chan Huy, there's on his right hand side, there's deep listening. You know the so I think deep listening is very important. We need to listen to our own heart and to the victims of so-called scandals, if you want to put it in that way. Okay, even the voice of the perpetrator, if the guru is the perpetrators, are the perpetrators, and then we need to listen to our heart. What are these scandals are telling us? What are the message that we need to get to listen here? Deep listening. And then also I saw from the background of Brother Chan Hui, his left hand side is his name, right? Chen Hui. Chen Hui in Chinese, I think is called authentic light of the Dharma, you know. And the purpose of healing is to let our Buddha nature shine, you know, to shine the light of Dharma onto the issues that we are handling now, we are facing now. For example, scandals or the issues, you know, contemporary issues in Buddhism or in the Buddhist circles. So I think first we need to feel the pain or the victims, whatever is happening now. Say like there's a Ukraine, there's a war now, aggression by Russia. We need to feel, interbe with that, their pain and suffering. Feeling is the first step, I think, you know, to interbe with that pain and suffering. And then second thing, we need to touch them, not necessarily physically, but touch them with our extend our mind and compassion to embrace that conditions. And we need to hug them. Need to hug the whole humankind. And then fourth step, to heal. Yeah. First we need to feel, and then we need to touch and hug and then heal. And then we need to do it not physically, but we can do it mentally and spiritually. But start with some prayers probably, or prayerful mind. We need to be prayerful in this kind of condition and feel the pain. And I remember Master Thich Nhat Hanh once say, do not shut your eyes when you see suffering. You need to be with the suffering. Needless to say, this suffering happened in our Buddhist community. Somehow we need to really embrace it and admit that there is a problem within the circle of Buddhist society. There is issues that's happening now between guru-disciple relationship. There is a scandals happening here and everywhere, locally and globally. So first step of healing is to open up our mind to the existence of suffering and pain. And then healing start from there, from the mindfulness of this suffering. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, brother. Yeah, okay. May I read to you the precept number 8 of the Engaged Buddhism? Do not utter words that can create discord and cause the community to break. Make every effort to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. So I think, having said that, Brother Sherab, talking about admissions, listening, feelings, while we are facing the scandal or whatever. So I think the challenge lies on the part of the expression. Do you think, shall we speak up or not to speak up? Shall we express these so-called events to the public, or shall we point out to the community that we have such a problem in this community? So what do you think? I think the challenge lies on this part, whether shall we disclose the whole things to the whole world. This is a very, very challenging issue. Maybe I would like to hear from any of our speakers tonight. Anyone would like to share something about your view? Or shall we, I put it in other words, shall we cover all these under the carpet? Okay, so yeah.
I think for me is that we should speak out, but speak out with mindful speech. Mindful speech. And then first is to ask ourselves, will our speech be beneficial, be helpful for the situation that we are having now? And is it kind? Is it a kindful speech or not? Is it mindful? Is it helpful? And then is it beneficial to speak out in certain way? Instead of um, like you say, sweep everything under the carpet and do not speak about that. That is, I don't think that is the right way to deal with the current situation that we are having now. Yeah, even the Dalai Lama also encourages us to speak out when there are certain things, injustice or scandals happening in Buddhism. I think his Lord said very clearly that we need to speak out and we need to help the victims, and we need to, instead of taking care too much about the good name of Buddhism, we need to express or manifest the Dharma that we are practicing now. Yeah, with kindfulness and wisdom and compassion and skillful means as well. Skillful means, yeah.
Somehow I agree with you, Brother Sherab. Yeah. What about others' view? Anyone would like to share?
I think I agree to Brother Sherab. I think they have to think what is the beneficial way. So I think it's not a hard rule saying that you must speak out or you must sweep under the carpet. I think you have to evaluate the conditions at that time. What is the best way? What is the best way to both parties? Okay, sometimes we don't want to cover, don't want to speak up doesn't mean we want to protect anybody or we want to protect the victims. Sometimes we want to protect the victims. The victim may not want it to be disclosed because there could be a to be victimized second times if the thing explode to the world. You see, so it's not to protect the fake gurus in a sense. So we have to evaluate the whole conditions wholly to see that what is the best way forward. Of course, I do not agree that we cover up because you tarnish the image of Buddhism. No, Buddhism image will not be tarnished because of a fake guru, a wrongdoing of a fake guru. No, I think the covering up is tarnishing worse than covering up itself. So I think we have to evaluate the whole conditions. Okay, so if the best way is to disclose to the whole world to protect more people, to prevent more victims, then go ahead with to do it. But if we do it, then they will the victim will hurt more, or they will think they have been they don't want people to know about it. I think we have to respect their right as well. I think there's no hard rule on this. My view is like that. Thank you.
And to to
Thank
to
you.
rephrase
Yeah.
to rephrase the sentence that we use now, I think there's no way to in speaking up lah. Speaking up is the way.
Skillfully adopts
Yeah.
Pascal's word.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, yeah.
I think
Okay,
I
yeah,
want to
please.
come back to the topic, reflecting and remembering teacher, the late Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. He has given us a lot of teachings, a lot of sharing of the wisdom, how he lived his life and the teachings with us. And the word mindfulness is really, it really strikes me, and it strikes me. Sometimes it strikes so hard that I feel very inadequate. I need to practice more. But that's very important. I think in thinking about that, and I'm trying to understand the issues that you're facing right now, you're discussing. I think, first of all, human beings are very much a creature of our surrounding and conditioning. We are conditioned and influenced by the things we hear, people say, our fears, our inadequacies, our upbringing, things condition. We are conditioned beings. That's why I think Buddhism, in Buddhism, there's teaching that tells us that there's this cause and conditioning that affects the person, and that conditioning also affects the way we look at gurus and teachers. And we need to be mindful of that. Sometimes we look at gurus but in our own lens and have certain expectations. Sometimes we look at gurus or teachers with certain viewpoints, and when those are not viewed, when those views are not achieved, we feel disappointed. So that's one perspective. The same thing also with on the side of the gurus, right? Some teachers, you know, um, they become teachers for very good reasons. Some, they again, by their own conditioning, they become teachers, and they also interpret the way they share their teachings. It's on both sides, right? So I think the important part is to understand our minds, and this is where mindfulness comes in. When you in remembering Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, we also remember the conditions, the things that condition us. How do we break out from all that, right? So that's the first thing we need to understand. And I think underlining message is being mindful is not to judge teachers or people, and also not to set expectations, right? It is our own minds we need to think about. Secondly, is that obviously, in a teacher or maybe in a people of power position and a student learning position, sometimes the relationship may have been abused. Okay, I don't say so much about this, but what I want to say is that if somebody feels it's abused or have encountered negative situation, talk to someone and find ways to resolve it. Two ways: find ways to resolve within our hearts to overcome the suffering. Second is to find ways to communicate with the people involved to try to apply mindfulness to overcome the challenges that we are facing, the suffering we are facing. It's not an easy answer, not an easy process, but I think it requires a lot of compassion, a lot of mind, a lot of metta for each other and for different people. So I think this is a topic that probably needs a separate entire discussion by itself. But on the theme of this discussion, the theme of this dialogue, mindfulness is key to understand how we are conditioned to look at things, other people, and how other people are conditioned to look at us. So, and in our teachings, in our spiritual traditions, there's this practice or this reminder called humility. Sometimes we have to, bring ourselves down to remove our egos, our preconceived understanding, and accept, the teachers or the teachings as it comes to us. It's it's a it's a process. I can see that. So that process has to be governed by mindfulness, has to be governed by compassion and wisdom. I think that's what I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kevin. I think all of you have contributed a very valuable point of view. Yeah. Having talked about our guru or teachers, now let us talk about ourselves. Okay, let's talk about ourselves as a practitioner. Yeah, talking about the importance of public perceptions of mindfulness practitioner. There are certain general views that mindfulness practitioner is not so productive. Okay, maybe I use the wrong word, but I guess you understand that somehow only my mindfulness practitioners somehow they are only experts in some say feeling good, only sitting around for hours, for days, for months. In what ways mindfulness practice can be useful in a solid and tangible way, I mean, to the society? How do you think? I draw analogies maybe for clearer pictures. For example, our badminton player Lee Chong Wei, someone who is an elite player, it's common to train for 7 or 8 hours for months, for half year, aiming for badminton champions or whatever. So for mindfulness practitioner, along the same lines, we also sit for 8 hours a day, maybe 7 days a week. But in terms of public view on our productivity, um, which is more acceptable? Public will view Lee Chong Wei as much more productive than us. So I generalize here in terms of tangible productivity. How should we draw our so-called usefulness in our practice compared to other professions like badminton, like whatever? Do you get what I mean? Actually, somehow we are quite unfair. I mean, in terms of our practice. Yeah, maybe Brother Chan Huy, would you like to share some of your views?
I'm not sure I understood the question correctly, Calvin. So may I repeat and
Yeah,
see if I understood you correctly?
sure.
Um, yeah, you say that mindfulness practitioner may appear lazy, not productive, and is that the question?
Uh, Yes, compared to the other profession like badminton player, they train for hours, they train for years, but people will view them as a very productive sportman. But in terms of mindfulness practitioner, we do also the same practice for years, for months, but somehow people will view us like not so contributory to the society. So how do you draw a line between these two?
I still not sure about what the question is, but one of the things that I want to apply in my own life, and it's not easy, is to just be and less care about what people think. Um, we are born in this world with a mission, whether we know it or not, and our mission is to be the best we can be. So whether we are a mindfulness practitioner, a guru, a teacher, a student, an engineer, we are part of the whole thing. And if we look at ourselves and if we look at the world with the eyes of InterBeing, we will say that there's nothing like usefulness or less useful. We all have a role to play. The sun is shining every morning for all beings. The rain is falling down for all the plants, the big trees and the small grass. Um, and my aim for myself is to live the best life I can, to be aware that I am with everything around me, that I depend on everything, and that everything that I do, I say, or think will have an effect on the whole. And so usefulness, um, yeah, a flower is just a flower and it is beautiful. And if you look at the flower and you are happy and you are beautiful, you will see her beauty. But she does not call you and she say, "Hey, look at me! I'm more beautiful than my neighbor," or anything like that. So we just live our life, and that's the best way, I think. Now, in terms of being useful or not, who are we to say that that man is more useful than the other one? And if we
Thank
think about productivity, one of the things that I've learned from my work and before and after my sickness is, people appear to be doing many things, and we call it disturbing the wind. So they are like running after dogs running after their tail, but they don't achieve anything, even if they look very busy. And I look at my teacher and I look at Dalai Lama and they're so happy, they're having fun, and they laugh, but they're so useful. I mean, I don't dare to say that the Dalai Lama is useful, but his presence is affecting the life of the whole world. And I have had the chance to meet him on two occasions. And you do not need to listen to what he's saying. You just feel he's just there and he's beautiful. And the energy that he's radiating out, you are just there and you are absorbed in that energy. And if there's a word for it, it's the energy of the Buddha, it's the energy of compassion, and you are just embraced into it. So, is the Dalai Lama useful? I would say he can be. There's no one that I know that can be more useful than, and they appear to be businessless. They do nothing. They they appear to be doing nothing, but they're doing so much, which is so different than the performers that we see trying to impress people, running around like dogs after their tails, but not achieving anything. No, I don't know if I have answered your question, brother, but thank you.
Yes, thank you. You did. You did. Thank you for justifying our professions, and you give us so much hope for keep on practicing. Thank you so much. Yes. What about others? Speaker, would you have something to share
I think your
on?
question, I think,
Yeah.
sorry, just want to bring back to the question. I
Yeah.
think the question assumes
Mm.
something not right. You know,
Mm.
if I'm a professional badminton player, I train 8 hours a day, I cannot be mindful. You know, and if I'm a professional tennis player, I'm a professional engineer, whatever it is now, I got to work 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. I work very hard, productive in that sense. I cannot be mindful. And I think that's a very wrong thing, wrong thinking. Mindfulness is not a matter of how fast or how slow you move in your life. Mindfulness, as Bertrand has mentioned, I like what he says about how can we be a better person? How can we be more than who we are? It doesn't mean that you have to give up some profession. I remember there was an interview when Thich Nhat Hanh was asked by a police officer in the US, right? He carry guns. They have to be very violent sometimes, forceful to how do you practice mindfulness? Do I have to give up being a police officer? Do I have to do that? I think he brought up some very interesting answers. It's about being mindful who you are and how can you be better in what you are doing as a person in expressing compassion, expressing peace. So sometimes we I also want to also take a hit at this because sometimes some teachers seems to give out the impression that you need to close your eyes and you must close your eyes and stay in one corner all the time, therefore you are a very good Buddhist, and I think that's not right. Okay. We need that quiet time. We need to slow down, and that bell that whenever Thich Nhat Hanh always teaches, always reminder to us that we need to slow down. But it is also important to be mindful of our life itself, and I think that's the essence of this is my interpretation, essence of what Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh is always talking about an engaged Buddhism. You engage with society, you engage other people as the speed they are going. We don't ask the world to slow down for us so that we can be engaged. We need to be with them, and it needs tremendous mindfulness, and calm to actually be in there, right? You go into a war zone, you go into a refugee camp, you cannot say, "Oh, everybody is down," you slow down for me. No, no, I'm very hungry. I need food. My parents are killed. We have suffering. So being connected to that is very key. I think it's about starting from where you are. The mindfulness is the point of looking at ourselves. Oh, that's where I am. That's who I am now, and this is what I need to do to be a better person. This is what I need to do to contribute more to my own development and contribute more to society. And mindfulness is the underlying practice behind that. So I just want to share that thing because I have also been asked this question, being productive and all. It's not a matter of being productive if you sit down to do something. I think we need to change that perception, and being engaged, we need to be with the world, and mindfulness is the key. Just sharing my thoughts on this. Thank you.
Yeah, I do agree with Brother Sun. So I think that question from Brother Kelvin is very obvious. Is from the perspective of a capitalist or from a materialistic view. So how do you define productive? A badminton player give hours of training, put in the hours in training is productive. Yes, of course. And then a mindfulness teaching spends hours being mindful. Is it productive? Yes, of course, it's being productive in that way. So actually, just like I remember there's one verse in Dhammapada saying that a man who conquered 1,000 person is okay is not what I call is a great conqueror, but the man who conquer himself is the greatest conqueror. So in a sense that being mindful actually is we conquer ourselves, we conquer our hatred, our ignorance. I think that is the most productive things we can be. So depend on how you define productive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both of all of you. Actually, again, I think all of you have removed the difference between among all these professions. Yeah. And then by bringing out the most underlying principle of mindfulness. Thank you. And this one also give a very correct and proper perspective view of mindfulness from layman's point of view. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, I think we don't have much time left. Yeah, but I'm glad to hear more from all of you. Unfortunately, I think we have only about 10 minutes left. Yeah, so may I put forward the last questions to all of you, right? I would like to hear all of you. If mindfulness is our basic nature, like food, like water, like air, is so important, it's so crucial to our spiritual life. So may I make invitations to all of you to give us suggestions. How can we do now to make it possible for mindfulness to reach out the mainstream of our society one fine days in the future, especially for our next generations, to all of our young kids. Do you have any ideas to bring it out? Based on the fact that mindfulness is so important, yet a lot of people ignore the existence of mindfulness. So, you have any suggestions? Maybe we start with Brother Sarah.
Yeah, you're muted, Bershon. Unmute.
Sorry. Yeah, I think I remember what is Gandhi or who he said that be the solution or be the peace that you want to see happening in the world. No? Be that kind of thing that you want to have. So I think the best we can do, I don't know, as a practitioner or enthusiast or mindfulness is to be the example of mindfulness. And then also I think mindfulness is about the art of waking up, and we as an engaged Buddhist should also grow up in many aspects, grow up socially, politically, economically, all these things that we need to really fully engage ourselves in to become an example of the world. Yeah, to become the authentic light of Dharma, as the name Chan Huy, and we need to practice deep listening to the suffering of the world so that we can heal the world. Yeah, seeing the cry. One of the quality of Avalokiteshvara, Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, is she can hear the cry of the world. He listened deeply to the suffering of the world, and he come to wherever sentient beings need her help, spontaneously. And this is one thing I want to say. And another thing is that I agree with Brother Chan Hui, what he said, that when you look at so-called enlightened beings, accomplished master like Thich Nhat Hanh and the Dalai Lama, they're always bubbling with joy, joy, and then freshness of their mind. They are very clear, they are very wise, they are very nice, and then full of energy, very juicy, not boring type of drowsiness. They are very always engaged, always staying in the present moment. I think that's a kind of light that we can bring to the world. Yeah, instead we want to promote mindfulness, how to say, intentionally. Why don't be an example of mindfulness, effortlessly, so that the world can see. In other words, I agree that we shouldn't try too hard to be a good Buddhist, but we need to shine our light, as our inner light of Buddha, our Buddha nature. Let it shine, yeah, effortlessly and unconditionally. One thing about, like Brother Kok says, that unconditional, being the beings. I think there's three aspects we need to have: being, doing, and having. But by being mindful and doing things productively, and probably we can have world peace and global healing. We need in short, we need a very inclusive and comprehensive method to move forward. I believe mindfulness is a kind of something organic. It's a process, ongoing process. It's an evolution. Yeah. What we talk about mindfulness today is totally different from 10 years or 100 years ago. And what mindfulness movement, yeah, we are going to talk about in future is going to be totally, maybe quite different from what we are discussing now. So it's an ongoing process. We need to be mindful about this mindfulness movement as well, and then to see how to direct this mindfulness movement into a correct and proper direction in the future, so that everybody can benefit from here, from this mindfulness movement. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Brother Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about Brother Kevin?
Our, our aim is not to teach mindfulness. Our aim is to help ourselves and other people overcome suffering, the challenges. Mindfulness is the tool. Let's not get too caught, in this, in having to go and teach mindfulness, I go and teach Buddhism, you know. And we need compassion, we need peace, we need to understand where we are and how to be better people, right? Let's be mindful about it, right? And talking about compassion, I just want to say something, you know, this I also hope that the powerful people with the big weapons and the big guns, you know, can lay down their arms and look for peace. And I'd like to take this opportunity also to say that, you know, the war in Ukraine is changing a lot of things. And let's be mindful that we can share our metta, you know, to Putin, you know, lay down your arms, stop the war, you know, bring peace in that region, you know, and help alleviate, you know, suffering from that part of the world. Yeah. So let's focus on the core areas and main things we're talking about. If there's one teaching that the Buddha has ever taught about is, you know, he says he taught 4 things: that suffering exists, there are costs to the suffering. We need to understand it. We are optimistic that there's an end to suffering, and there's a way to get out of it. So I think we have to remind ourselves that, and that mindfulness is to be mindful of that fact, and continue to move towards the end of suffering. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope Putin is watching tonight. Will he? Brother Sherab?
No, we can send him our metta. He will be able to. Compassion. Okay.
We can try to shine our light on his consciousness. I'm not sure whether he's watching.
No, I'm joking.
But with that note also, it's important. It's not just of Putin, but I think it's not the person by itself, but it's
Yes.
the act of violence,
Yes.
it's the
Yes.
fear, it's the aggression we need to deal with. We need to solve that anywhere in
Yeah.
the world. Right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm touched with your intentions. Yeah. Thank you, Brother Kelly. Yeah, Brother Liau, did you have something to say?
Before that, I think when Brother Sun mentioned about the war, I remember Thich Nhat Hanh got one of his 14 precepts saying that do not kill, do not let others kill. Try whatever means possible to protect life and prevent war. He specifically mentioned the word to prevent war. So I think as a Buddhist, this is what we should do. Back to your question, actually, I'm not too concerned if mindfulness is not in the mainstream. I think I'm more concerned when that I can practice my mindfulness. Okay, so I think we should be more concerned of. When I was young, okay, maybe when I was young, I tried to change the world, but now at my age now, although still considered young, okay, I'm more concerned that I can be mindful myself, and then by being mindful myself, I think I can within my circle of influence, I think I can change the people around me. Just the people around me, maybe they can be more peaceful, they can be more contented with what they have, and I think this is important to me. I don't really concerned that want to make mindfulness is the mainstream practice in the world. I'm not too concerned about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Liao. Thank you, very insightful
If I just share one line, Brother Liao
Sure.
remind me of a saying that if you can't, you try hard to change the world, but if you can't change the world, you can help change somebody's world, and that will make a world of difference.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Brother Chan Huy. On top of the question just now, right? We also would like to hear from you. To your knowledge, do you know that Plum Village in the future, do they have any plan to what's the plan to go on further in promoting mindfulness, to the whole world. If any, please let us know about it.
Okay, that question has been asked a lot since my teacher passed away. And before we get there, if you allow, I will try to have some comments that I wanted to add, listening to our panelists. Thank you, Brother Shalet. You spoke my heart, because listening to the panelists, that sentence came to mind, and it's be the change you want to happen, and that was from Gandhi. So Gandhi is a great being and a great Buddhist, I'm sure. um, about the productivity. Um, the sage know that when conditions are right, things will happen. Um, we want to achieve something. And if we are mindful, we will look at the situation and we will see how the conditions are. The conditions around us and the condition inside of us. And when the conditions are right, it will happen. And that is why a mindful person is much more productive, because he's mindful of the conditions. So if we take the worker on an assembly line, if he's not mindful, he will create accident to himself, and he won't be that productive anyway. Somebody in position of power taking unwise decision because he's being pushed by his personal feelings or by his ambition, will do a lot of damage, and I don't know if that is productive or not. So aimlessness, be still, and know. It is what I would feel about the productivity that they blame us for not being, for not having. Um, there's also one thing. Um, we all want to change the world, and I always remember when we are having that push or that tendency or that desire, to remember that change has to start within. The way out is in. And because because of InterBeing, if we can be the change that we want to be, we need to be the change for the change to happen. And so that's why the practice starts with self. And my teachers say, peace in self, peace in the world. We do not want the war in Ukraine and in Russia to happen. It is out there, but it is also inside of us. And inside of us, how can we bring peace to ourselves? How can we be the peace that we want to be? And that is our practice. And if we can be peace, peace will be. So peace in self, peace in the world, and that is what we can all do. And it starts with our everyday practice. So talking about the future of Plum Village, you know that when our teacher was asked how or where he wants his stupa to be built. He say, I don't want to be in a stupa. And if you build a stupa, please put a sign on at the door of the stupa that will say, I'm not in here. And if people do not understand, put another sign up, and I'm not out there either. I'm not in here, and I'm not out there either. If you want to find me, you can find me in your mindful breath and in your mindful step. And that is the legacy, and that is the teaching that my teacher has left to us in Plum Village. And it becomes our individual and our collective practice in order for our teacher to continue to live like the Buddha is still alive in us, with us. We need to bring them. We need to make them alive with our breathing, with our step, with our way of life. And if we are doing that, my teacher will never die, and the Buddha will still be with us, and the peace will be possible. So thank you so much for having organized this panel. I love you so much. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chan Huy. I'm really impressed and touched by all your sharings. Thank you once again. Thank you so much. I personally learned a lot from tonight's sharing. Thanks a lot again for your joinings. I think I will pass the floor to Miss Shamisha for closing up. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so before we declare our upcoming events, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your valuable timing, and for your valuable time, and as well as your valuable wisdom. So thank you very much for joining us. Hope we could all meet next time as well. I hope our audience has also enjoyed this program a lot. So let's take the next step, which is declaring the upcoming events. So we are going to have the part one of Noble Dara series, which is Women, Buddhism, and Psychology on 27th March, Sunday. So our contributors will be Venerable Tenzin Dasil, Sister Pratika Sneeder, and Sister Tripti Lodson. And Sister Smita Lahiri will be moderating this event. And I think we just have this announcement. So let us conclude this session with the four gate vows. So I would like to invite Samiksha to please lead us with this four gate vows.
The four great vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it. May all beings be well, happy, and safe. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.